We're at the last parking area right off the Lovell Canyon Road today. It's about a quarter mile from the Lovell Canyon trailhead. That's up an unpaved road, and I usually run that. And what we'll do is we'll be ascending this hill on the Lovell Canyon Trail and then heading into Lovell Canyon. And you can't really see a whole lot from here, but I will explain what we're going to do. We're going to go all the way up to the end of Lovell Canyon. There's Griffith Peak, by the way. And there's a saddle that goes down to the right and then rises up to Harris Mountain. And what we're going to do, that saddle is right at the end of Lovell Canyon. So what we're going to do is we're going to just head up Lovell Canyon and get all the way to that saddle. We're going to look at some of the various approaches to Sexton Ridge, which is the ridge that, southern ridge of Griffith Peak. We're going to look at various approaches from up in the canyon. And we're also going to look at approaches on the possible routes on the east side of the canyon, the Harris Mountain side of the canyon. And then we're going to go up to the very end and ascend to the saddle between Harris Mountain and Griffith Peak. And finally decide, maybe we want to go up to Harris Mountain, maybe we want to go up to Griffith Peak. It depends on how long it took. Griffith Peak would be a longer trip. Harris Mountain's around 10,000 feet. Griffith Peak is around 11,000 feet. And right now we're at 5,700 feet. So it may be that we just end up going up to Harris Mountain or toward there, or maybe just up to the saddle between Harris and Griffith. And along the way, we're going to just discover a whole lot of routes to different places from Lovell Canyon. So here we go. Well, here's the destination. There you can see ahead Griffith Peak on the left, Harris Mountain on the right. And there's the saddle between, straight up Lovell Canyon. And curiously, I am the only person in this entire canyon. No one at the trailhead, no cars parked, and I probably won't see a soul all day. So, where else can you go and experience an entire expanse like this in total solitude? That's one of the benefits of Lovell Canyon. A lot of people don't know it exists. So let's go ahead, and what we're going to do is we're on the Lovell Canyon Trail. We've ascended to that bluff that you saw in the last video. Now we're descending. We're going to descend down into the canyon and then just take the canyon all the way up to that saddle. And then, now I've got my eye on Harris Mountain for today. And, perhaps we'll just head up to Harris Mountain. That last, that last mile and a half or so, straight up the avalanche slope should be a delightful experience. But that's what I've got my eye on today. Another route potentially would be to go to the saddle and then take a left and head up to Griffith Peak. And I've actually taken the route between Harris Mountain and Griffith Peak via that saddle, and very familiar with that whole route. It's very doable, and you can see on the Griffith Harris or Harris Griffith Circuit page, either one. I've done both directions a few times on LasVegasAreaTrails.com, and you can see the route between Harris Mountain and Griffith Peak by way of that saddle in between. But this is the first time we are ascending to the saddle by way of Lovell Canyon. Now, another thing we're going to be looking at is potential routes up the east side of the canyon. And what you see up ahead there is the Wilson Ridge. And on the other side of the Wilson Ridge are the Rainbow Mountains. And then if you look around down the canyon, we'll get better views of this. What you see is you're looking toward Potosi Mountain. And let's see. Let's look back up. There's the Wilson Ridge. And so as we ascend the canyon, another thing we're going to be looking at is below Griffith Peak, there's a southern ridge called the Sexton Ridge. We've ascended that to about 9,000 feet, and we've ascended it by way of the Griffith Shadow Loop Trail. At the top of the trail, we connect with Sexton Ridge. But what I see here are some other potential approaches up to Sexton Ridge from upper Lovell Canyon. And we want to look at those too, because it's such a marathon getting from the trailhead, Lovell Canyon trailhead, up to Griffith Peak, that it was like 4.5 hours, maybe minus the video, but maybe not. 4.5 hours just to get to the 9,000 foot point, and I had 2 more thousand feet to ascend to get up to Griffith Peak. Maybe there's a quicker way, maybe by going to the saddle and then taking a left up the saddle to Griffith Peak. That could cut off some time. Maybe taking a left up one of these approach ridges to Sexton Ridge could cut off some time. We don't know, but we're going to check all those things out today. Lots of exploration. We've never been to the upper area of Lovell Canyon, up to the saddle between Griffith Peak and Harris Mountain. And so we're going to see a lot of new things today. Here we go. By the way, it is 92 degrees high today in the Las Vegas Valley, and that's around 1,500 feet. We are at 6,100 feet now, and we'll be descending then reascending, but it's going to start getting hot. We're in the we're in mid-May, and as we approach June, definitely in July, this place really heats up. So I've got some limited time that I can be exploring Lovell Canyon before things heat up. Then I go to the higher elevations in the Charleston Wilderness, and then in the fall I'll come back here and finish up whatever I've missed. Okay, here we go. Been here before. This is the first major choice that you've got. And you've got Griffith Shadow Loop that heads off to the left at this point, and that would be the route to take if you're going up Sexton Ridge. Go to the top of Griffith Shadow Loop, catch the ridge up there. But what we're doing is we're going to the saddle today, which means we want to continue on the Lovell Canyon Trail and the Schaefer Spring Loop. But actually we're going to take Lovell Canyon Trail down into the canyon. Now, up to now, there's been a lot of up, down, 200 feet up, 200 feet down. We've done that in fact, we're about 400 feet higher than when we began. And so this is not very efficient when it comes to conserving your energy. Another route would be just to start right up the canyon from where I parked the car. And the only question about that is I don't know if there's some private property up there or if there are some barriers. We'll check that out at some point. It would not be as nice a surface as this, but you wouldn't be going up, down 200 feet at a shot. So, and there's about 3 to 4 times that you make that rolling ascent and descent up to this point. We're only 1.5 miles into the Lovell Canyon Trail. So anyway, that's another choice, and we'll check it out at some point. Stay in the canyon rather than take this higher loop. But now we're heading down Lovell Canyon Trail into the canyon. Okay, we're on the Lovell Canyon Trail, and what I wanted to point out here is that bluff up there, that little cliff, is Handy Peak. And the reason I'm pointing it out is that this is a landmark if you're going up and down Lovell Canyon. At the base of Handy Peak, you catch the Lovell Canyon Trail. Let's say you're all the way up the canyon, and you're coming down from Harris Mountain over here. You want to hit the Lovell Canyon Trail. Maybe you don't. Maybe you want to just keep going down the canyon. We might try that on the way back. Save some time and altitude gain and loss. But if you want to hit the Lovell Canyon Trail, when you see Handy Peak, you get, if you're coming down the canyon, you get past this bluff here, circle around, and you'll find the Lovell Canyon Trail. So it's just a good waypoint here. And so as far as altitude gain and loss, yeah, this has been very inefficient. I believe that by the time I get back down into the canyon, I will have gained and lost somewhere around 1,000 feet or more. Where if I'd stayed in the canyon, I would only be at the 100-foot point of altitude gain at that same point where this trail reaches the canyon. So that's something to be aware of, and we'll check out the canyon route that has no trails but may be much more efficient. And here you see the saddle. This is our destination, going to the saddle and potentially ascending Harris Mountain. And you see a line halfway up. That, I believe, is Harris Mountain Road. And curiously on the map, that road continues along this side of Harris Mountain and then descends into the canyon, almost gets to the base of the canyon, then quits. Why? We don't know, but we're going to find out. Here we go. Overlook. And you can see we're descending down into the canyon now. And then we will ascend the canyon over to the saddle, which is this area. but maybe before we hit that saddle. Now I see, I believe, where Harris Mountain Road descends into the canyon. See that line? That is Harris Mountain Road. And if you look up, right about the center of the screen here, you can see a line going across the mid altitude of Harris Mountain up ahead, and then it gets to this point and descends down into the canyon. Now we may actually take that up to Harris Mountain, and another route would be to go all the way to the saddle and ascend to the saddle. And maybe we'll descend that way. We don't know. But anyway, great view of Lovell Canyon. And notice how it splits. There is a split that is off to the right. We want to keep to that. There's a split to the left. And if we were ascending to Sexton Ridge, we would take that split to the left and look for an approach ridge. And we'll check that out when we get down in that area. In the meantime, remember Handy Peak, which is our point of reference here in the canyon. That cliff area there is Handy Peak. And so we want to keep track of where Handy Peak is, because that is the indicator that we are at the point of the canyon where we catch this trail if we want to return by way of this trail. And one reason not to be in the canyon, even though this trail requires, like I said, 1,000 feet elevation gain and loss by the time you get back to the canyon. There's a lot of brush down in that canyon. We don't know what the brush situation is, so pick your poison. Plow through the brush or have a nice trail here and ascend and descend an extra 1,000 feet. So those are some choices that we've got. Okay, here we go. Remember what I said about brush in the canyon. Here we are. So the trail continues, and let's see if we can get to the main wash. If we can, and we can take a left at the main wash, then it's just a matter of proceeding along the gravel and rock of the canyon floor. So I've been down this way actually from the Griffith Shadow Loop. And in fact, if you want to hit that Griffith Shadow Loop, you can actually descend along the canyon floor from up in that area, and you end up here, and then this is where you see our landmark, Handy Peak, and the cliffs of Handy Peak. That's where you find this little trail to take you back to the Lovell Canyon Trail. And as you can see here, we have reached the base of the canyon, and now it's going to be just a matter of ascending along this route. And we can either ascend staying at the base, or it looks like there is a continuation of the trail. I'm going to take that continuation because I've been in this base of the canyon before, and maybe that little continuation of the trail on the other side of this wash is going to be easier going than navigating all these rocks But let's go ahead and do a 360-degree view. What are we looking at? There's Griffith Peak. And then to the left of Griffith Peak is the Sexton Ridge. And where we ascended Sexton Ridge actually was right in this area where we ascended, and we took, you see two ridges up there that approach Sexton Ridge. We took the one to the right, I believe. No, maybe the left. We don't know from here. But anyway, we took one of those two ridges and reached the beginning of Sexton Ridge, and then we took a right and we continued on along Sexton Ridge to the 9,000 foot point so far, which probably was somewhere around in this area, maybe a little further up there. And then you can see how it continues on over to Griffith Peak. We had another 2,000 feet to go. So that gives you an idea of Lovell Canyon. We're at the base of the canyon. We can either continue up this wash or up this little trail. And do a 360. So you can just get an idea where we are. And another return route could be stay in this canyon at this point and head all the way down this wash to, it would take us directly to the place where we parked, but we just don't know what's between here and there. If there are some barriers. Oh, by the way, here's a little cairn to let you know if you're heading down the wash that, you know, there's the Lovell Canyon Trail, and you just take that opening there. So yeah, there are some options around here, places to go. So let's take this little trail, the Lovell Canyon Trail continuation, and see if it continues above the wash in a way that's going to be a little smoother going than on these rocks. Here we go. Well, this trail continues to be not very efficient in terms of altitude gain and loss, but it's smoother than being down in the wash. So again, pick your poison. Here's a high point. We've ascended another 100 or so feet. Now we're descending again. But there's the saddle. And here you can see some great things here. There's Griffith Peak. And then continuing around to the left, you're looking at Sexton Ridge. Right at this point, you're looking at the point we ascended Sexton Ridge. And I do believe it is the ridge on the right. You see two ridges that approach Sexton Ridge, and there's the beginning of Sexton Ridge. So that's a good view of one of the approaches to Griffith Peak. Now, another potential approach would be to go further up the canyon and then take a left and ascend one of these ridges. And I see a few possibilities ahead. I see a wash up here. I don't know how challenging that might be. Maybe there's even a trail there. Who knows? And then I see a ridge here more in the foreground that heads up Sexton Ridge. So those are other options. And notice how there is a major split. You see this little ridge system in the center of Lovell Canyon. And if you want to go up Sexton Ridge, you're going to take a left and head up toward Griffith Peak. If you want to go toward Harris Mountain, which we're going to do, you're going to take the right wash. But we're going to check out this trail. If it descends back into the wash, I may just take the wash. It looks far more efficient, even though it's more rugged. So anyway, and you can see the Harris Mountain Road, that line halfway up Harris Mountain, and you can see where it descends just about to the base of Lovell Canyon. So we may catch that road, take the canyon, catch the road, and head up to this point where the road skirts the base of Harris Mountain, and just continue up that avalanche slope to the summit of Harris Mountain. It just depends on how much time we've got. We've spent a lot of time in the ups and downs here. Could have smoothed things out and probably saved an hour by now had we just stayed in the canyon, but we'll find out. Here we go. By the way, let's do a quick 360. Here's the trail, Lovell Canyon Trail, Harris Mountain, Saddle, Griffith Peak, Sexton Ridge, and then that area there at the base of the Sexton Ridge approach is actually the Griffith Shadow Loop. And when we went up the Griffith Shadow Loop, we caught it right about at Handy Peak area, which is there. We went along the far side of Handy Peak and then ascended these hills and then circled around, and then ultimately ended up approaching Sexton Ridge. So it gives you an idea of the surroundings here. And let's continue the 360 just so you see the area here. Some landmarks, you want to notice them. And once again, this entire expanse of Lovell Canyon, I am the only one in the entire canyon. so talk about solitude. That's I've never seen anything like this. Okay, onward. Hey, whether I like it or not, the trail is taking me back down to the canyon after winding around in the hills above the canyon. Next time I'll just stay in the canyon. And here is the canyon. So it looks like I'm going to end up heading up the canyon regardless. So let's do that. And you see this ridge, little ridge in the middle of the canyon. We know we want to skirt that ridge to the right and then head toward Harris Mountain. So here we go. There are disadvantages to being in the wash. As you can see, lots of rocks everywhere, and bushes, a lot of navigation issues, but we're heading up in this direction toward the Harris Griffith Saddle, and we'll see if it's a relatively straight shot or if there are some major barriers in the way. 360-degree view. So you can see there's not a lot of easy routes to traverse here. And one could ascend this ridge here to the right, but as you can see, there's a lot of up and downhill if you go that route. So I'm sticking to the wash, and we'll see how far we get to. There you can see Harris Mountain. If you look carefully, you can see Harris Mountain Road about midway up the mountain. And then you can see where the road suddenly plunges downward into the canyon right around this area. So a lot of interesting things to discover. And then you can see the saddle up ahead, the Harris Griffith Saddle. And you can see Griffith Peak. And yeah, go to the Harris Griffith Circuit page on LasVegasAreaTrails.com, and you'll be able to see the, taking the saddle between Harris Mountain Summit and Griffith Peak Summit. So let's continue picking our way through these rocks and bushes and see how far we get. Here we go. Just widening out now, and it looks like it's wide for a little ways, but don't count on it being wide too long. But it's a little easier going during this section. We'll see how navigating this area toward the saddle is going to go. And as we close in on Harris Mountain Road, there it is, halfway up the mountain, 2/3 of the way up, and then it descends down into Lovell Canyon. So give you an idea, yeah, if you had a really good four-wheel drive, you might be able to take Harris Mountain Road from Kyle Canyon, Harris Springs Road area, catch Harris Mountain Road from Harris Springs Road, and then actually circle around here. But no guarantees. I got to check it out before I could even suggest that. We don't know what the road does. And then there's the saddle, there's Griffith Peak. So let's continue on up the canyon. Looks like we might be at the big dividing point in this canyon. And you head off to the left. You could potentially head up to Sexton Ridge. However, I've got 2 hours and 45 minutes into this so far. And by the time we got to the top of Sexton Ridge, I think it would take longer than going the Griffith Shadow Loop approach. So I don't think that's a viable approach. You could ascend and get to the summit of Sexton Ridge up here and then take a right and head over to Griffith Peak. Yes, it is possible, but I think by the time you did that, you wouldn't be saving any time over just taking Griffith Shadow Loop to the top of the loop and then hitting Sexton Ridge. So that leaves us with, here we have the right split in the canyon or wash, and is heading more toward the saddle. So I'm going to take that, and you can see again, there's Harris Mountain, and you see that straight line should be Harris Mountain Road, and you see where the line plunges downward. That should be also Harris Mountain Road, heading down into Lovell Canyon. So there we have it. Let's continue on. Let's pause here for a moment take stock of where we are. The reason I'm pausing here is that we're exactly at 7,000 feet. Now, you can see up above, doesn't look like it's too far up there, is Harris Mountain Road, that straight line. And you can see the ridge, well, there's Harris Mountain up there. And if you take a straight line down that ridge or from the end of Harris Mountain Road, you go down this ridge and down into Lovell Canyon. Now that's the ascent that I'm going to make, and I estimate that it'll be about 2,500 to 3,000 feet from the canyon floor up to the summit of Harris Mountain there. And then you can see we trace our way down the saddle and then up to Griffith Peak. And if you're thinking that this cliff area looks a little imposing if you're taking the saddle from Harris Mountain to Griffith Peak, actually it's not, because there's a trail that winds its way around that cliff and then up to the ridge above. So there's some more views looking up. We're at the same elevation here as the elevation of the top of the Griffith Shadow Trail. You wouldn't think so, because we're down in the canyon, but this canyon has really ascended, and you can take a look down the canyon. Yeah, it's a healthy ascent, but look at the surface. It's not as bad as it was a while back. In fact, the majority of the canyon is this kind of rock surface, which, while it is not the easiest to navigate, is really not too bad. And then there's Potosi Mountain, Potosi. And I'm sure if you looked carefully, you could see portions of the Lovell Canyon Trail on the right side of this canyon, because we could certainly see this location from higher up in the Lovell Canyon Trail. And you see the winds picking up. It's supposed to be down in the Las Vegas Valley up to 30 miles an hour gusts. Going up that ridge, I would say we could add another 10 or 20 miles an hour with that exposure there. Anyway, let's continue on up. Let's get to at least where the road intersects the canyon down here, and just see what things look like if we've got a nice road to ascend all the way up to that point. And you see the straight line up there. If we've got a nice road to ascend up this ridge, it might not actually be too bad. So let's just see what happens up ahead. Here we go. Well, all good things must come to an end. That nice wash below is starting to get complicated about the 75 to 7,600 foot level. We're closing in on the saddle, you can see ahead, but now we've got some trees to navigate. Hopefully we'll be able to weave in and out. Now, Harris Mountain Road, it appears that you can faintly see a line along the mountainside here. That might be Harris Mountain Road. I do not know. maybe not. Harris Mountain is up there. And there is an approach ridge there. And there's also, you can't see it from here too well, but there is a, looks like an approach ridge to the saddle. And then there's the saddle just going right up to Harris Mountain. We've made that trip before. Definitely not from here. So, give you an idea of where we are. Let's do a 360. And yeah, I don't know what happened to all these trees. Could have been a fire. We don't know. I don't see a lot of charred remains, although there's some charred action, I think, on that tree. So, yeah, could have been a fire. And you can see Potosi Mountain down there. And in front and a little bit to the right, you can see the hills that that the Lovell Canyon Trail is on, and we were looking from those hills up to this location and beyond to the saddle. So, yeah, here we are. Yeah, maybe some charred remains on those trees. I don't know. It could have been a drought. You would think a fire would look a little different, although right ahead here, definitely charred. So, yeah, a fire must have rushed through this canyon at some time. We're going to weave through these trees, and you can see a ridge here that leads up, and a ridge here that leads up, and then a ridge at the very saddle that leads up. So we're going to just decide which ridge to take based on how thick the brush is. And when we finally decide, we got to escape this brush and start ascending. But even the ascending looks like it's not super easy and brush free. So, yeah, here we go. Brush is turning wicked on me. Very narrow, lots of barriers here. I'm going to continue on up. This is down the wash. Just pass through all of that. Anyway, I'm going to continue on up. And, oh, interesting. Looks like one could actually ascend that ridge on the other side. Get out of the brush. What do things look like on this side? Maybe there's an opening to get out of the brush on this side too. So, but that actually does not look too bad over there. But I don't know where it leads. Let's go ahead. You can tell, very indecisive here. We're going to go ahead and continue up here and see if we can hit an opening in this wash and begin ascending a ridge to get out of this lower area. Here we go. This little wash is turning into quite the steep slope here. We're seeing some different plants, little flowers. So we're getting into the higher elevations. We're above 8,000 feet right now. And I recognize some of these bushes from the same type of plants on the Sexton Ridge. Speaking of which, I believe that point up there is the start of the Sexton Ridge, and it's only a couple hundred feet higher than where we're standing right now. So we've ascended quite a bit. There you can see Sexton Ridge. Now looking down this little wash, there's a lot of branches here from this previous burn area. And you can see charred remains. So definitely there was a fire here at one time. But the wash itself is relatively brush free, and so far has been not too horribly difficult to navigate. No ledges to climb over, just steady uphill, weave around some rocks and duck some branches. So far we're doing well. And then I believe, not sure, but I believe that might be Harris Mountain up there, or not too far below Harris Mountain if there's another high point beyond. So we're continuing up, have a turnaround point in another half hour. I'd like to break out in the open at least before we hit that turnaround point to see where we are. So let's see what we can do the next half hour. Well, one thing I know is my washes. And I mean avalanche slopes. And this wash has become Mummy Mountain steep. So I'm nearing the turnaround point. I think I want to climb up this ridge just so I can get a view where I am. I've been in this little gully for what seems like forever. Give you a 360-degree view. Now definitely turning around, if I'd been walking up backwards, look at the view I'd have. So there is the beginning. I think that's the beginning of Sexton Ridge, and we're about at the height of the beginning of Sexton Ridge right now. Maybe that's further up the ridge, actually. Yeah, I think it is. I think the beginning of Sexton Ridge is in this direction. So, yeah, narrow little chute we've got here. Nice breeze, perfect temperature. It's going to be hot on the way down, definitely. Getting back into the canyon, Lovell Canyon. But yeah, I'm gonna send up right here and see if I can get a better view of where we are. I've been without a view for a long time. It looks like the trees are kind of thick up there anyway. Although they do tend to give way. When you reach them, you look ahead and you've got another section that you can travel without too much brush. But the dirt is loose. There's some loose rocks, and so the going is, and it's incline, very steep. So the going is very slow at this point. I just want to get up here where I can see a little more. Okay, here we go. Here we are having ascended out of the wash, and it looks like that little wash down there has actually taken me up the side of Harris Mountain. And there is one summit right up ahead, and then beyond that it's a kind of a ridge jog to the true summit of Harris Mountain. So we are at 300 feet. We have another couple thousand feet before we hit the summit of Harris Mountain. So we're not going to make that today. Give you an idea where we are. There's the cliffs on the west side of the Harris Griffith Saddle. And then going up the saddle, there's Griffith Peak. And then here's a good look all the way down from Griffith Peak. If you follow that ridge, that's Sexton Ridge. So now we're seeing it from the other side of Lovell Canyon. And then all the way down Lovell Canyon. See, we've risen up quite a bit above the base of Lovell Canyon. And I think that what I needed to do is stick a little more to the left down there, so I could have been heading up more toward the saddle and probably a better sized wash. The saddle is right at the base of those cliffs there, and that might have been actually I'll try that next time, because this ridge right below us, that would be a great access ridge if, you know, to take above the saddle to Harris Mountain. But I don't know what the wash is like down there. If it's good, that would have been the better way to go, saved a lot of time, because this wash was very slow, very narrow, as you saw earlier. And you can see looking down the main wash there, and I'll need to take that next time and not head up this little side wash that brought me up the side of this. Well, I'm basically on the avalanche slopes at the base of Harris Mountain right now. Another 2,000 feet to go. There's Potosi Mountain. Down Lovell Canyon. So this is a good view of Lovell Canyon from this perspective. So what we're going to do now is, you know, take a little rest, collect ourselves, and then head back down this narrow wash, because I know it's very easy to navigate, and it'll be downhill, I guarantee, all the way back. So there you have it. Our trip from Lovell Canyon trailhead up to this point just below Harris Mountain. Okay, that's it. Let's just do a quick silent panorama. Here we are sitting way up in Lovell Canyon, about 2,000 feet below the summit of Harris Mountain. Griffith Peak. There's the Griffith side of the saddle, the cliff area. There's Sexton Ridge below Griffith Peak. And down Lovell Canyon straight to Potosi Mountain. If I didn't know better, I would say this is Oregon grape, the state flower of my home state, Oregon. Up here in Lovell Canyon in Nevada. Kind of like a holly. The leaf is like a holly, and then it's got a yellow flower, and then purple fruit, and they're all over this hillside. Okay, I guess I've stalled enough. Time to head back. Here we go.